Hi, this video is the next in a series of videos looking at culture, social imagination, and risk as it pertains to agri-food. And this time we're going to be looking at food branding and marketing. Certainly, food branding has a lot to do with the way we think about food and agriculture. Uh, so when we just step back and think about the relationship between food and community, prior to the 19th century, uh, most people were involved with farming. You can look at labor data, you can see the vast majority of people were working in agriculture and growing their own food. There were a lot of households that were self-sufficient, for instance, and there were a lot of people farming for profit as well, kind of commodity farmers like tobacco farmers and so forth. Uh, they were just intimately aware of agriculture and where their food came from. And when people ate food, they had faces attached to that food. Who produced it, how they produced it. They had stories and they had relationships, right? So even with the markets where food perhaps was purchased, if it wasn't grown by themselves. So with the industrialization of food, which came after the 19th century, all of that changed, right? So the community aspect of food has been lost, and in place of it has arisen this industrial, professional food production model, right? So it's altered or removed most of the social aspects of food production. Although some people go into gardening or try to replace that in some way, shape, or form. So food images, where do they come from? Early on, when this industrial food complex began to arise, people were quite suspicious because they had memories and connections to older ways of growing food. Kellogg, who more or less invented cereal, pioneered also uh, food branding and the use of logos associated with different brands in order to build consumer confidence. And this started as early as 1907, so even before World War I. And Kellogg's innovations were adopted widely by food industry in the years that followed. And this helped normalize not only flaked cereals, which is where this was applied first, but to other types of foods that began to apply this imagery, these logos. And so food images, became associated with different characters increasingly. So some of these are probably familiar to you: the Morton Salt, the oatmeal Quaker Oats character, the sweetheart of the corn, who is no longer really. Uh, that logo has kind of died out, but that was the original cornflakes logo. The Green Giant, Aunt Jemima, associated with a brand of syrup. And so what this branding did was that it put a face on the food, right? Some kind of warm kind of image to replace the lack of social and community components to the production of food that came with industrialization. And food packaging, it's evolved over time, as has the use of logos. You can see the original Sweetheart of the Corn was a more realistic looking individual. The image we saw before started to become a little more stylized. And now we're just onto cartoon characters and, unrealistic faces that appeal to people in different ways psychologically, right? So that they attach through psychological association a food product with a particular emotion. Now you can see originally they had these kind of wordy appeals that were really designed to, you know, draw on your rational side, your left brain, if you will. And now we're definitely we're appealing to the right brain when we're advertising food. So food images, by adding a name and a story to different brands, manufacturers are manipulating this need people have for a social aspect or communal basis to food production and even consumption. And marketing has been instrumental to this, playing down the fact that local agricultural production has more or less been replaced by an industrial complex, right? Mass production, usually from a distant place. Thank you.